take you now to Lansing, Michigan, where Governor Gretchen Whitmer is being joined by health officials to discuss their state's recent surge in coronavirus cases. Let's hear what they have to say.
In the months that followed, the people of our state stepped up to protect one another. Healthcare workers worked 18-hour shifts in our hospitals. Truck drivers continued to deliver critical supplies. Grocery store clerks kept our shelves stocked. Businesses, small and large, retooled so that they could produce sorely needed PPE. Restaurants shifted to takeout, delivery, and curbside service. Educators found creative ways to engage and stay connected to their students. And everyday people did their part by staying home and masking up when they went out. Michiganders have made huge sacrifices this year to protect our public health, and it has been hard. It's unlike anything any of us has ever faced before. But we listened to our public health experts. We smashed the curve. We saved thousands of lives together. And because of it, we had one of the best economic rebounds in the country. We need to remember, back in March, there was a lot that we didn't know about COVID-19. And we now know that wearing a mask is the single most powerful weapon we have against this virus. Now, 8 months after I first spoke to you in March, I'm asking that we join forces again. Because as hard as those first months were for our state, these next few are going to be even harder. For months, we have been sounding the alarm about the heightened dangers of a fall and winter surge, fueled by more contacts than ever, the convergence of that with school, complicated by flu season, and accelerated by low temperatures, driving us all inside. Now we have reached that point we were warning about. We are in the worst moment of this pandemic to date. The situation has never been more dire. We are at the precipice and we need to take some action. Because as the weather gets colder and people spend more time indoors, this virus will spread. More people will get sick and there will be more fatalities. This is the worst public health emergency our nation has faced in over a century. And our response has got to reflect the same level of urgency. Our response is strongest if we are unified and all in this together. We cannot control the fact that we're already seeing a surge in cases, but what we can control is whether or not and how we join forces to combat our common enemy, COVID-19. We do have some control here. Our collective action can control the severity and length of this wave if we all do our part. A leading model shows that if we don't take aggressive action right now, we could soon see 1,000 deaths per week here in Michigan. I want you to think about that. 1,000 deaths per week is what one of the models tells us. To date, we have just under 8,000 people lost. That could be 1,000 a week we could be adding to that. So if we act now, though, just like we took action in the spring, and we work together, we can save lives, thousands of lives. We can keep our hospitals from being overwhelmed. We can hopefully keep our kids in school and keep small businesses open and eat at restaurants again if we act now. We beat this last time by listening to our public health experts, and we can beat this again. And so today we've got to act. Today, the Department of Health and Human Services is issuing an epidemic order to help us slow the spread of COVID-19 and save lives. The order takes effect on Wednesday at 12:01 a.m. and will be in effect for 3 weeks, and we will continuously monitor the data throughout to determine next steps. Public health experts are warning Americans everywhere to limit our indoor gatherings so that we can save lives. This new epidemic order is geared towards stopping the spread by limiting indoor gatherings. These steps are what the public health experts say we must take to avoid overwhelming hospitals and death counts like we saw in the spring. The rapid spread of this virus requires that we take aggressive action now to save lives. Getting this health crisis under control is absolutely essential to getting our economic crisis under control. If our public isn't healthy, our economy isn't healthy. You just look around the country. We have to beat this virus to strengthen our economy. I want to thank businesses that have made the tough choices and stepped up to protect their employees and their customers and their families. I saw this morning that Long Road Distillers in Grand Rapids has ended in-person service to protect the Grand Rapids community. Steps like these are crucial to getting this virus under control, and I want to thank them and all of the other restaurants and restaurant workers who have made incredible sacrifices this year. Doing this will also protect the medical workers, our first responders, and other essential workers who are putting their lives on the line every day to take care of others. I had a conversation with a doctor at Sparrow Hospital in Lansing recently, and she told me that she was proud to stay on the front line and be a hero, as we refer to them. But she confessed that she wasn't sure if she could get through another surge. That is not a unique story, sadly. And this is one of the things that should cause every one of us concern. We all have a responsibility to follow these laws and do everything in our power to protect one another and to ease the burden that the people on the front line are confronting every day. Defeating this virus once and for all and protecting American lives and livelihoods will require more action than just state governments alone and people can take. I know that the action of my administration today will save lives and will have a positive impact on families and frontline workers, and ultimately our small businesses will be impacted. We're working to make sure that we help through this moment. But we need help from the federal government as well. Through these tough times, we need more leadership at the federal level so we can make it through this winter. It's going to be a tough winter. The United States accounts for 4% of the world's population, and yet we also account for 20% of the world's COVID cases and 20% of the world's fatalities. We as a nation have got to come together to fight this virus. As the president prepares to leave office, part of his legacy will be determined and shaped by these last 66 days. President Trump has an opportunity to meet the needs of the people of this country and extend life-saving support to Americans everywhere. And I hope that he and Leader McConnell and Speaker Pelosi can deliver a recovery package, help for unemployed workers, small business assistance, support for locally owned restaurants and all restaurant workers, and resources to give our kids the educational support that they need. This stimulus is critical for our families and good for our economy. Now remember, the reason that our economy came back as strong as it did was because we had an aggressive plan and federal support in the early months of this pandemic. They did it once and it worked. Now we need help again. Every single one of us, from the President of the United States down to each of us individually, has a crucial role in this fight. I want to talk about Thanksgiving, which is next week. If you are considering spending Thanksgiving with people outside of your household, I urge you to reconsider. Think about your favorite Thanksgivings and the loved ones with whom you've spent them, your parents and your grandparents, your siblings and your kids and their kids, your neighbors and friends. Think about them and picture their faces. Think about the good times, laughing together, cheering on the Lions, playing cards and cooking together, maybe even arguing about politics. As hard as it is not seeing them this Thanksgiving, imagine how much harder it would be if you weren't able to see them for a future holiday ever again. As hard as this is, We all need to make short-term sacrifices for a long-term gain in health and happiness. And I hate to say it, but we know that some people will gather anyway. And odds are that some of these gatherings will spread COVID and contribute to the loss of loved ones. It's just the hard, sad reality of this virus. And I know none of us wants to be the person who has to live with the guilt of unwittingly bringing COVID to someone that we love. So as you consider your options for next week, I urge you to make the difficult but right choice, because it's ultimately going to be in the long-term benefit of everyone that you love. Michigan versus COVID-19 means we are all in this together. I know a lot of us are exhausted fighting this virus. Every single one of us, me included, is tired of this. And yet, none of us can let up for a second. No matter who you are, whether you live in a dynamic city like Detroit or a quaint town like Ludington, whether you're a Biden Democrat or a Trump Republican, whether you're a Youper or a downstater, you have a role in this fight. So let's challenge the energy that we had this spring when we stomped the curve. This is going to be a tough couple of months. It's going to be a hard fight, but I know we are up for this challenge. We've done it before, and we will do it again. My hope is that everyone makes smart choices to keep yourselves and your loved ones and our frontline workers and our communities safe. I hope that you will double down so we can avoid a stay-home order. Do it for yourself. Do it for your family, for the nurses and doctors, or do it to help the small business owner who desperately wants to keep their doors open. I believe in you, and I know we are up to this challenge, and I know this is possible. Let's rise to this challenge. We have 3 weeks to see if we can all do our part and make a real difference. Let's do this together.